What if everything you believed about intelligence, its value, its promise, its glory, was a lie? From the moment we're born, we're told that being smart is the key to a better life. Study hard, think deeply, analyze, achieve. Intelligence becomes a currency, a measure of your potential, your worth, your future. But what if that promise is hollow? What if, beneath the surface, the gift of intelligence carries a hidden cost no one talks about? What if the more you know, the less peace you feel? What if the mind you've sharpened becomes the very blade that cuts into your joy, your rest, your sense of meaning? Think about it. Have you ever felt trapped in your own thoughts? Have you ever noticed that the deeper you think, the more disillusioned you become? That the more you see, the harder it is to unsee? That the more you understand people and the world, the more distant you feel from them? This is not a coincidence. And it's not just you. This quiet pain has a name and a voice. Arthur Schopenhauer, one of the most misunderstood philosophers of all time, believed that intelligence, far from being purely a gift, is a curse disguised as virtue. A curse that alienates, overwhelms, and exhausts the soul. And once you understand why, you may never look at your own mind the same way again. Arthur Schopenhauer wasn't like the others. While his contemporaries were busy preaching progress, enlightenment, and the triumph of reason, he looked in the opposite direction, into the darkness. Born in 1788 and shaped by a world riddled with war, loss, and uncertainty, Schopenhauer's mind wasn't occupied with lofty dreams of human potential. He wasn't here to flatter us with hope. He came to reveal the cost of consciousness, the raw, unfiltered truth about what it means to really see. To Schopenhauer, intelligence was not the shining crown society made it out to be. It was a double-edged sword, capable of cutting through illusions, but also of slicing away at the delicate threads that hold peace of mind together. He believed the more intelligent a person was, the more pain they were destined to feel, not because they failed to thrive, but because they could no longer be blind. They saw the world too clearly, its chaos, its contradictions, its cruelty. He didn't see this as a philosophical abstraction. He saw it as reality. And while most thinkers tried to elevate the human experience, Schopenhauer stripped it down to its bones. He asked, what happens when intelligence stops being your superpower and starts becoming your curse? Intelligence is often seen as a light. The brighter, the better. But Schopenhauer warned us, the brighter the light of understanding, the darker the shadow it casts. Intelligence heightens our awareness, yes, but that awareness doesn't just reveal beauty. It exposes the rot. It makes us see not only what is, but what's missing, what's broken, what can never be fixed. Think about it. The more you understand people, the more you see their masks. The more you learn about history, the more you're forced to confront the cycles of cruelty and decay. The more you grasp the nature of desire, the more you realize how empty its rewards are. Where others find comfort in simple pleasures, you may feel a hollow echo. Because your mind won't let you settle. It keeps asking, probing, digging, until there's nothing left but fragments of a truth that hurts more than it helps. Schopenhauer called this the curse of seeing too clearly. Most people live under comforting illusions: faith, routine, ambition, distraction. These things keep them grounded, even if they're not entirely real. But the intelligent? They see through it all. And what's left when the curtain is pulled back? A life filled with striving, with no final peace. A world that offers no ultimate answers. A self that questions everything, including its own purpose. To be intelligent, then, is not just to solve problems. It's to become acutely aware of the limits of all solutions. It's to carry the weight of knowing, not just facts, but futility. And that weight, it grows heavier the deeper you think. Intelligence promises truth, but sometimes that truth is too much to bear. There's a certain kind of torment that doesn't scream. It whispers. It doesn't come from trauma or tragedy, but from thought itself. Too much thought, too often, with nowhere to land. This is the reality of the restless mind, the intelligent mind, the one that sees too far, feels too deeply, and cannot stop asking, why? Why are we here? Why do we suffer? Why does nothing ever feel quite enough? Schopenhauer saw this all too clearly. To him, the intelligent were cursed not by what they lacked, but by what they couldn't ignore. While others found solace in distractions, the thinking mind wandered too far from safety. It broke through illusions and landed in the void. And once you've tasted that emptiness, Once you've stared into the indifference of existence, there's no going back. Have you ever laid awake at night, mind racing through memories, regrets, what-ifs? Have you ever found yourself spiraling into thoughts that no one else seems to have or care about? That's not weakness. That's not failure. That's the shadow side of intelligence. A mind like that is rarely still. It chews on the world until it feels hollow. It seeks answers to questions that may have none, and in that seeking, it often becomes its own worst enemy. Schopenhauer believed this restlessness is the price we pay for awareness. The more you understand the world, the harder it is to enjoy it. Pleasure fades, conversations feel shallow, achievements lose their glow, and slowly, the intelligent person begins to wonder, is this all there is? That question, unanswered, becomes a quiet ache, a gnawing tension between knowing too much and feeling too little, a hunger not for facts, but for peace. And yet, the more the mind tries to solve itself, the more entangled it becomes. To understand the full weight of Schopenhauer's philosophy, we must confront what he saw as the engine of all human suffering, the will to live. He believed this force, the will, is not noble or rational, but blind, insatiable, and relentless. It drives every creature to survive, to reproduce, to strive, not because it leads to fulfillment, but because it must. We don't choose it. We're born under its control. It doesn't ask us what we want, it wants through us. Most people never question it. They chase success, relationships, pleasures, and goals without stopping to wonder why. They're swept along by the momentum of desire. But the intelligent? They begin to see the pattern, the endless cycle. You want something, you get it, you're satisfied for a moment. Then the emptiness creeps back in, and the mind, always hungry, moves on to the next thing. More money, more meaning, more status. But it's never enough, because the will doesn't care about peace. It only knows how to crave. Schopenhauer saw this as a kind of prison, and the more intelligent you are, the more clearly you can see the bars. You recognize that everything you chase is temporary, that all achievement fades, that every desire, once fulfilled, gives birth to another. And that recognition creates a split, a kind of alienation from the rest of the world. How can you truly relate to people who are content with chasing illusions you no longer believe in? The highly intelligent often feel like outsiders, not because they're better, but because they've seen too much. They stand on the edge of society, not above it, but apart from it, watching the dance of desires they can no longer join. And in that disconnection, the will becomes unbearable. You're no longer driven blindly by it, but you can't escape it either. You're awake in a world still asleep. So if the will to live is endless, if desire keeps us trapped in a loop of craving and discontent, where is the exit? For Schopenhauer, the answer wasn't in success or even in knowledge. It was in beauty, in art, in moments that stopped the wheel from turning. He believed that through art, we could momentarily escape the tyranny of the will. Not permanently, but long enough to breathe, long enough to be. When we listen to music that moves us, or lose ourselves in the pages of a novel, or stand silently before a painting that speaks without words, we enter a different state of mind. A state where we're not chasing, not calculating, not striving. We're simply experiencing. In those rare moments, the mind stops gnawing at itself. The will quiets, and we're given a glimpse of what it might feel like to exist without suffering. Schopenhauer saw music as the highest form of this transcendence. Unlike painting or poetry, which represent the world, music is the world in a purer form. It bypasses thought and speaks directly to the soul. He believed it resonates with something beyond reason, something timeless, something sacred. And that resonance is not just entertainment, it's liberation. Think about it. Have you ever listened to a song that made everything else disappear? Have you ever cried during a film or felt a stillness while watching the sun set, unsure why, but knowing it mattered? That's not weakness. That's not escape. That's truth. A deeper truth. One that slips past logic and touches the part of you that still remembers what it means to be whole. For Schopenhauer, these moments weren't distractions. They were revelations. Temporary sanctuaries from a mind that never stops. Reminders that even in a world ruled by blind desire, there is beauty. And in beauty, there is freedom. Escaping the will through beauty is a momentary relief. But Schopenhauer believed we could go even further, not just quiet the will temporarily, but soften its grip on our entire lives. He called it quieting the will. a kind of inner stillness that doesn't come from winning, achieving, or knowing more, but from letting go. Letting go of the constant need to strive, to prove, to control, not in defeat, but in peace. In a world obsessed with ambition, this sounds like heresy. We're told to hustle harder, aim higher, never settle. But Schopenhauer asks a different question. To what end? If desire only gives birth to more desire, what are we actually chasing? And more importantly, what would happen if we just stopped? Escaping the will through beauty is a momentary relief. But Schopenhauer believed we could go even further, not just quiet the will temporarily, but soften its grip on our entire lives. He called it quieting the will, a kind of inner stillness that doesn't come from winning, achieving, or knowing more, but from letting go. Letting go of the constant need to strive, to prove, to control, not in defeat, but in peace. In a world obsessed with ambition, this sounds like heresy. We're told to hustle harder, aim higher, never settle. But Schopenhauer asks a different question. To what end? If desire only gives birth to more desire, what are we actually chasing? And more importantly, what would happen if we just stopped? Quieting the will isn't about giving up on life. It's about stepping back from the illusion that we have to constantly be doing more to be worthy. It's about observing our desires without being enslaved by them, recognizing that we are not what we want. We are the awareness behind that wanting. This is where Schopenhauer meets Eastern thought. Influenced by Buddhism, he believed that real peace comes not from satisfying the self, but from transcending it, from no longer identifying with the ego that craves, complains, and compares. And in that space, something strange and beautiful begins to happen. The mind no longer needs to fix everything. The heart no longer needs to own everything. And life, in all its messiness, becomes enough. Have you ever wished you could just stop thinking for a moment? Not out of laziness, but because your thoughts have become too loud, too fast, too painful? That wish is not a flaw. It's a signal, a call back to silence. And Schopenhauer believed that learning to answer that call is the beginning of wisdom and of freedom. Look around, and you'll see it everywhere. Brilliant minds drowning in burnout. Overachievers crippled by anxiety. Deep thinkers who feel disconnected, misunderstood, exhausted by the very thoughts that once inspired them. In the modern world, intelligence is more celebrated than ever, yet peace of mind is harder to find. Why? Because intelligence without wisdom is like a torch held too close to your own eyes. It blinds rather than illuminates. Schopenhauer's warnings echo louder now than they did in his time. We live in an age of infinite information. Our minds are constantly stimulated, always consuming, always analyzing. But still, we lie awake at night, restless. We achieve more than ever and feel emptier than ever. That's not a personal failure. That's a sign of a deeper imbalance, one that Schopenhauer saw clearly. The mistake of thinking that intellect alone can deliver happiness. He would argue that our suffering doesn't come from what we lack, but from what we can stop wanting. And intelligent people, they often want understanding, clarity, control, but life rarely offers those things. It's messy, it's uncertain, it resists the neat structures of thought, and when you try to conquer it with your mind, you don't win, you just get tired. So what if the solution isn't to think harder, but to feel softer? What if the key to happiness isn't another goal, another insight, another level of achievement, but the courage to stop chasing and start being? The modern application of Schopenhauer's wisdom isn't to reject intelligence, but to rebalance it, to pair it with presence, to trade some of your mental energy for quiet attention. Instead of solving everything, try watching. Instead of always reaching, try letting. Let the moment unfold. Let your thoughts pass. Let life be more than a problem to fix. Because the intelligent suffer most when they forget this. You are not just a thinker. You are also a being. So what does it really mean to be intelligent? Is it solving complex problems? Memorizing facts? Winning arguments? Schopenhauer would say no. True intelligence isn't just about knowing more. It's about seeing clearly, even when the truth is uncomfortable. It's about holding space for contradictions, embracing mystery, and recognizing the limits of the mind itself. Intelligence that stops at analysis becomes a trap. It turns inward, spins in circles, and eventually collapses under the weight of its own thoughts. But intelligence that evolves into wisdom, that's something else entirely. Wisdom is the ability to step back, to let go, to feel compassion, not superiority, to choose silence over noise, stillness over stimulation, humility over control. In a world that confuses speed with success and noise with relevance, wisdom is radical. It says, I don't need to have all the answers. I don't need to win. I just need to be, fully, presently, peacefully. That kind of intelligence doesn't isolate you. It connects you. It helps you see others not as distractions, but as mirrors. It shifts your focus from being right to being real. And maybe that's the real measure of intelligence. Not how much you know, but how deeply you understand what matters and what doesn't. So now we return to the question we began with. Is intelligence a gift or a burden? And maybe the answer is both. Intelligence can open your eyes, but it can also darken your spirit. It can give you insight, but rob you of peace. It can make you feel powerful and utterly alone. But here's the truth Schopenhauer left us with. The pain of seeing deeply can become the path to living wisely. If we learn to use our intelligence, not to dominate life, but to understand it, not to cling, but to let go, then intelligence stops being a curse. It becomes a light, not blinding, but gentle, not harsh, but clear. So take a breath, step back, let go of the need to solve everything. Let go of the illusion that thinking more will always lead to feeling better. And in that letting go, notice what remains. Silence, presence, stillness, maybe even joy. If this journey spoke to you, if you felt the weight of your own mind and longed for something lighter, share your thoughts in the comments. This is not just a video, it's a conversation. And maybe, just maybe, it's the start of something softer, slower, and more real. As Schopenhauer taught us, sometimes the most intelligent thing we can do is to stop thinking for a while and simply be.